Good evening, Mr. and Ms. Internet, and all our ships at sea. This is the Freeway Forum, coming to you live and direct from the world-famous 405 Freeway in beautiful, sunny Southern California. My name is Atari. I'll be your host for however long this takes us to get off the freeway. Just another Friday traffic here in the metropolitan Los Angeles area, the beautiful South Bay. Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. It's a warm Friday evening. Not like hot, but it's definitely nice. Really nice. This is proper weather here. This is what it's all about. Especially after my friends on the northeast corridor there getting snowed in. But here we are. We're enjoying it. We'll take it when we can get it. Anyway, so today's topic, as suggested by Dr. Jordan. You can find Holly Jordan on Twitter. She's on my Twitter somewhere. You can find her. Go to airbornesurfer.com or Twitter at airbornesurfer, and then of course you'll find somewhere in the timeline there. Anyway, today's topic, we're talking about classic movie, classic, what do you call it, a spoof, parody, an homage even. Yes, that's right, we're talking about the classic, the Weird Al film from the 80s. Spoof of television at the time, television politics, and small broadcast business. Yes, the classic UHF. Now, of course, I'm going to ramble on about UHF. It's a fantastically funny movie. And if you have not seen UHF, just drop what you're doing right now. Shut this off. Go watch it. Because it's necessary. We're talking about a movie that takes the sensibilities of Weird Al. If you want to call it sensibility. But Weird Al Yankovic, from his Demented Mind. I can't remember who directed it. I want to say Zaz directed it, but I doubt it. Somehow I doubt it. But anyway, so yeah. We're talking about a movie that, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Zaz, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker. We're talking about this is the creative team that brought you Airplane, that brought you Top Secret. And of course the Naked Gun movies, Police Squad. Gosh, what else did they do? So freaking much, I can't even think of it. But yeah, just a gag a minute, just rapid fire. Kentucky Fried Movie. Just this ridiculously off the wall kind of stuff that was very popular in the 70s and 80s. That was the comedic sensibility at the time. It's just like, make every joke you can, possibly. You can't stop to laugh at a joke because you're going to miss the next one. Which irritates Barbie every once in a while when we're watching a movie. She's like, don't pause it! I'm like, I have to take in the joke. I have to enjoy it before I go to the next one. Anyway. So that's what UHF is. You've got now of course spoilers are going to up out, but this is a 30-year-old movie, so whatever. So this guy, believe me, it's been a while since I watched it. I am remiss in that I did not rewatch it before today, even though I was planning on talking about it. But you got this guy played by Al Yankovic, who he inherits the TV station. It's this failing UHF station in his town. And, the big corporate guys want to buy it. He's like, no, this is mine. He's trying to figure out how to make it work. It's just failing, like hilariously failing, the kinds of stuff. It's very, very dry. Just not entertaining. Not entertaining fodder. And he comes up with these crazy off-the-wall ideas for TV shows, and just the station just takes off like a rocket. Just all of a sudden it's like worst to first, and then of course there's the, you know, he makes all these friends as he's doing this, and Michael Richards, Kramer from Seinfeld, or, you know, also known as the guy who went on a racist tirade in a club a few years ago. Anyway, he plays the janitor, and he eventually gets his own show, and he's all like, "Oh, you get to drink from the fire hose!" And it's a great scene, by the way. And people just love it. People love it, and he builds these really strong friendships, and, you know, everybody really likes him. And when bad guys come in and take over, there's you know, the natural resistance, of course, and they're all fighting back. And it's a screwball slapstick comedy. That's all you can really say about it. But it's also a nice, warm send-up of television at the time, of broadcast television, because broadcast television was really starting to feel the pinch of cable. Cable television was starting to become a thing. Pay TV, despite years of people scoffing at it, like, why would I pay for television? Why would I pay for television? I get all the television I want for free, over the air, broadcast on UHF. We got it all on UHF. It's a catchy song. Also done by Weird Al. But yeah, so this was a movie that came about at a time when television was starting to shift into this realm of going, you know, you had the networks, which were the VHF. Okay, so history here, and this is where we're going to kind of go off, and we're going to talk about stuff that I know, and broadcast politics and history and stuff like that, technology and these sorts of things. So back in the day, and well, you still do to an extent, but I'm going to simplify things way down to the layman level. So back in the day, you basically, when you had a television came with two dials, two channel dials. There was there was a VHF dial, which was your 2, 5, 11, well, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 2 through 13, 2 through 12 would have been your UHF channels. Don't ask me for the frequencies right off the top of my head. I don't recall what each channel's frequency is, but it doesn't matter for this illustration. So you had your VHF channels, and typically VHF were your networks. VHF was the networks. Your CBS, NBC, your big threes. Your CBS, your NBC, your ABC. Those were all the VHF channels. But like when I was growing up in Metro Atlanta, 2 was ABC, which I guess it still is. 2 was ABC, 5 was the CBS affiliate, 11 was the NBC affiliate, and 2, 5, 11. Oh, and 8 was PBS, GPTV. Metro Atlanta had, I don't know if they still do, had 2 PBS affiliates. One was Georgia Public Broadcasting, which was the big CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting affiliate, network type affiliate. And that was its own nonprofit. That was the big state-run nonprofit network. You know, GPTV was, I want to say, like, God, what was it? A network of 9? I want to say it was 9 stations all over Georgia. 9 or 15 or 12, some multiple of 3, for reasons. But it was a network. It was a little mini network. because back in the day, Georgia actually really cared about public television, because Georgia was Democrat run, I guess. I don't know. But public television was a big deal. I guess it still is. GPTV is still kind of a powerhouse, I think. I'm really grabbing here because I don't live in Georgia anymore, so I don't keep up with GPTV. I keep up with my local SoCal affiliates. There's the Los Angeles affiliate, and then there's the OC affiliate. But back to the matter. So you had GPTV, which was this like mini network of stations all over Georgia. So now I'm trying to remember the call letters. WGPB, I believe, was, because that's the flagship. 8 was the flagship. WGPB out of Atlanta. And you also had on UHF, so we'll get to that in a minute. On UHF, there was another PBS affiliate that was only in Atlanta, and it was affiliated through Atlanta Public Schools, and that was WPBA. Actually, I have a friend that works for WPBA, or at least he used to work for WPBA. I haven't talked to him in years. I catch him on Facebook every once in a while. Rob, if you're watching, please chime in with WPBA stuff. I'm at a loss here. Crack on my screen? I hope I don't have a crack on my screen. I don't think I do. Anyway, so those are your VHF channels. Very high frequency. It was just the method of broadcasting is high frequency channels. And then you had UHF. UHF stands for ultra high frequency, if you didn't know. And UHF, these are lower powered stations. VHF is a higher power station, has a better transmission, range because it's a higher power station, but at a lower, because it's at a lower frequency, it has to do with physics. But you can have a higher power transmitter on a lower frequency and get really clear type reception, typically. And of course, this is all analog. This is all talking about analog here, so nothing about digital. Anyway, so VHF, UHF, UHF ultra high frequency, and higher frequency, lower power typically because of FCC limitations. But UHF was interesting because UHF was more of the independent stations. UHF typically, because it's a lower power, you didn't need to invest as much money in a transmitter or an amplifier because you couldn't. You legally couldn't. So it was cheaper to run a UHF station, much cheaper to run than a VHF station, which is why the VHF channels were all network affiliates, because those are the only people that could afford it, were the networks. So the networks were subsidizing the cost of running a VHF station versus a UHF station, where UHFs were mostly independent and broadcasting either homegrown original type programming or were broadcasting syndicated programming. And that homegrown, that homebrew kind of stuff, that's where the movie sort of played into it, because they were just homebrewing their own stuff because they couldn't afford an affiliate, and they couldn't afford syndicated programming, so they were just making it up as they went. And it was just kind of like, a kid's wet dream in the day, little kid's dream, back in the day, to make your own TV shows. And I did that when I was a kid. I made my own TV shows. I made my own radio shows. And go figure, I didn't get into broadcasting. Why? Why didn't I get into broadcasting? Because by the time I was coming of age and going to college, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that broadcasting just wasn't what it was when I was a kid, and I fell in love with it. Radio and television, television was being eaten up by cable, and there's no way I'm going to be working for cable, because I don't want to go work for CNN because I'm in Atlanta, and that's really the only TV station you've got to go work for. I mean, I could have gone to work for Cox or something like that, theoretically. We're playing in theories here. I could have gone to work for Cox, or I could have gone to work for one of the local TV stations, the UHF station, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go into radio, and radio was all completely eaten up with. It was completely eaten up by a handful of companies, even more so now than then. But radio had become completely corporatized. There's very few independent radio stations in the country anymore. Everything is some affiliate of some larger content creator. Basically, everything is Clear Channel, or whatever they call it. iHeartRadio is what they call themselves now. To Clear Channel Communications, or Fox, or one of the big affiliates, the big syndicators. It's funny. I was talking to my dad a few weeks ago, and he asked me, because I was talking about doing the podcasting and talking about doing something like this, and he asked me, he's like, well, you ever thought about going into radio? And I said, yeah, I did, but I got out of it because I did not want to go into corporate radio. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be an independent voice, because I knew at the time that's where it was going. It was all going to these syndicated shows. It was all collapsing ever since. What was the law that was repealed? It was an FCC regulation that was repealed that said you couldn't own more than one broadcast outlet in a market, and they repealed that sometime in the mid '90s, and that's when all the consolidation started happening. Everybody was buying up everybody else, and that's when radio just went to shit. And I lamented those days. I knew that was happening. I knew I wanted to make a difference in radio, and I wanted to make a difference in broadcasting, and I wanted to have an independent voice, and I wanted to be this guy that's like, hey, I want to be something different. But that's kind of not what happened. I knew I couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't follow up with that, so I just didn't pursue it as an education path. I didn't feel like there was a future in it for me. Now, 15 years later, I'm getting back into it thanks to the internet. I'm kind of late to the game. I got very discouraged with it. I got very, very discouraged with broadcasting, with content creation, because at the time it was hard to be an independent voice because the technology just wasn't there yet. I mean, YouTube didn't exist yet. Podcasting was still really early. The iPod really MP3 players really were in their infancy. The iPod wasn't even out yet. And so podcasting really wasn't even a thing. They still call them webcasts. They still call them, streaming radio, or whatever they called it back. It was either webcasting or streaming radio or something like that. Which is essentially what it is. But podcast just sort of threw this brand name out there that people attached to, like Kleenex. Podcasting was originally something that you did for iPods, and it just became a generic term for a webcast or web program, streaming radio. So that's why I got out of it, and I became very discouraged with it. I did not want to get, I dabbled with it once in a while. I sort of, tried to do, but I was so busy, so busy living, doing things, having a social life, because I suddenly became social. It was really weird. That's a topic for another day. That's really a topic for another day. My middle college days, not to be confused with middle Georgia college days, but my mid-college days, my early 2000s, early to mid-2000s days. That sort of five-ish year span. Yeah, 5-ish years being in college, go figure. Some people go to college for 10 years. They're called doctors, or me. That's the hard part, is when you can't. Everything's changing. Everything that you know and love, all the career paths that you were just set on, because they're technologically driven career paths, and all the ones that you're set on are just in a freaking upheaval, and you see it and you know it, and there's this huge upheaval. You tend to want to change things a lot, and that's sort of what happened to me. Is I just kept changing things, and that's why it took me so long. But here I am. Anyway, so UHF, ultra high frequency. These were your independent voices, independent stations. So in Atlanta we had 14 and 17 WTBS. Yes, TBS. That TBS was originally a UHF station in Atlanta called WTBS 17. Channel 17. Now Channel 17 is Peachtree TV, interestingly enough. It's not WTBS. Actually, it is still WTBS. It still has the same call sign, but it's not called TBS anymore. It's called Peachtree TV. At least it was. I don't know if it still is, but yeah. And Peachtree TV is basically the 21st century incarnation of WTBS, which is kind of weird to me, kind of funny in a way. But, so that's that. 14, TBS, 17. Then you jump up to 30 was WPBA, was the other PBS affiliate, the smaller PBS affiliate run by Atlanta Public Schools. 36 WATL was the Fox affiliate, because Fox was not a major network at the time. It was still a sort of independently run sort of network. It was a UHF network. WTBS was the Fox affiliate. So the Fox affiliates were funny because they carried some Fox programming. So like Fox was a syndicator back in the day. Fox created programming specifically for syndication. And they had syndication packages like the Fox Kids Club and things like that. And so they made these syndication packages. Like Married with Children was a syndicated show for Fox affiliates. So if a Fox affiliate wanted to buy Married with Children, they could buy it from Fox and show it. And then just as the years went on, Fox became more and more powerful because they got better and better programming, they got more and more money, and it became this cable powerhouse that it is today. By the time they were able to beat a cable network, they were huge. And that's sort of the thing. 17, WTBS was a local channel. It was a locally broadcast channel in Atlanta, but it became a superstation, which is a whole different FCC sort of analysis. A superstation is like a super UHF, so it's got like multiple repeater affiliates in a given market, outside of one given market, so like multiple markets. So that's WTBS. 46 was WGNX. It was like independent programming. It was like bankrolled by a church or something like that. So a lot of religious type programming, a lot of PSAs. And the 11 Alive News, the local news, NBC News affiliate, they ran some they definitely had an editorial bias. Very much had an editorial bias. You can see some of that kind of stuff on the VHS Time Capsule. If you go to youtube.com/The Airborne Surfer, you'll see the VHS Time Capsule listed on the right-hand side under Comrades and Collaborators. So that's, yeah, that was that. So UHF is fun. We'll talk more about UHF. I'm kind of out of time right now, so we'll talk a little bit more about UHF maybe next week. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little chat. Always, you know, as always, if you're not watching live, if you're watching a replay, you know, drop me a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment down in the doobly-doo. Thumbs up. Give it a like if you're enjoying this kind of stuff. Always subscribe at youtube.com/theairbornesurfer, and follow along on Twitter at airbornesurfer, and of course there's always everything at airbornesurfer.com. Start there and work your way out. But again, thank you for tuning in today, and we'll talk to you next week sometime, and until then, tally ho, y'all.